Look, I'll be the first to admit, I'm obsessed with AI in the game industry, but not for the right reasons. See, I'm scared of AI. All of this makes me wonder, is the game industry going to be completely destroyed with all of this disruptive new tech? If there's any game developer out there who can help me, see the forest for the trees, it's Jabril. Jabril is a game dev and highly successful YouTuber, one that I actually had the pleasure to meet along with the Brackeys team in San Francisco a handful of years ago. See, Jabrils has amassed almost 500,000 subscribers, and he has a slew of content that, quite frankly, tends to go way over my head. So I couldn't help myself in asking Jabril to come on the podcast and talk about AI in the game industry. We discuss a ton of stuff. We talk about why AI is so misunderstood right now. Most people don't even know what real AI is. We talk all about that. Whether AI is going to take a bunch of game dev and tech jobs. We talk about why AI and automation are actually totally different things. We also talk about why 2D and 3D art generation are potentially going to fall flat. We also talk about where AI fits into more personal indie titles and whether indie games are going to be disrupted by AI. You're going to learn so much about AI, and honestly, there's some disagreement between me and Jabril as well in this conversation, so stick around for that. So I start out the conversation with an important question. Are personal indie games going to go away in this new era of game dev, or do they actually become more valuable? Let's jump in. But before we move on, I want to thank this video's sponsor, Bezi. They are the creators of this new tool that can be considered your development partner for your project. The tool uses AI to write code and scripts and has a real-time context of your entire project, like the code base, the asset library, scene graph, and components, which means all recommendations are made specific to your project. It helps generate exactly what you need, building on what's already existed in your project. It can help with optimization and is great for handling repetitive and boilerplate tasks like debugging to let you focus more on the creative side of your game and the complex parts of the creation. It's important to mention that your project's integrity and data privacy, they're of course completely secure. Bezi is currently in early access, so make sure you go to join the waitlist to be one of the first to get access, simply by clicking the link in the description.
I think it only increases it probably by an order of magnitude, to be honest, as people are looking for authenticity. I don't know if you've had this experience, but there have been increasingly corners of the internet that I've visited where it's just AI slop is the output. And I'm like, no, please, what's going on, right? Yeah. And that feeling, you're like, I want to be connected to human experiences,
Yes.
So I think if that does continue to increase, it's only going to increase by order of magnitudes, I believe.
Yep. Becomes more and more valuable too, because it's going to become more scarce.
Yeah.
Like this idea of a handcrafted game or a handcrafted product that comes from a solo developer or something,
But at the same time, I'm not fully convinced that we're going to have AI made games, at least to
really?
a degree. I'm not convinced yet.
Why?
What's the vision, right? Is the vision that you type out, I want Grand Theft Auto mixed with Minecraft and Tetris, and it's going to spit out the game, and then you can sell that to a publisher? Is that the vision? That I do not see. I do see potentially textures being used, but at that point, AI generated textures, but at that point, is it not just a tool,
Yeah.
I think about
on-demand textures. So you're playing a game and the textures change based on what the user wants, kind of thing.
And this is a new feature that released in the new game Inzoi. I'm not sure if you're familiar. It's the
What's it
Sims
called?
competitor. It's called Inzoi. I think it's INZOI. I think it is.
Okay.
It's a Sims competitor that people are really excited about, and they have a feature in there where you can use a AI image generator to create textures on the walls and stuff like that.
That's cool.
But that's about as far as I've seen it so far. And I stay pretty close to a lot of the AI stuff happening. And I think there's some headway happening with AI generated models, but even then, the texture wrapping on it, the UV wrapping on it is really bad. And,
it is.
But that's not to say it can't improve.
Right.
But even then, if we add AI generated models into games, I don't know. I just don't see it. I don't know.
Well, surely if we've gotten AI generated 3D models, which they do exist, by the way, they're not great, but they do exist.
Yes.
Surely wouldn't it? Don't you feel like it's been exponential though? Like all of this stuff is going so fast. Surely it's just going to get faster and faster and faster, and it's going to be more than just textures on walls, right?
Uh, I mean, it's possible, but I think the curve is slowing down at this moment. We had AI generated models back in 21. I remember playing with something in 2021. It's now 2025, and they're still not production ready, I would say. Okay. So like when I just draw that delta of 2021 to 2025, like we need some crazy breakthrough, which I'm not convinced we have yet, to get to the point where I can do text to video game, which is the fear, right?
So you feel like the curve is slowing down, not doing this.
I think it's tapering.
Okay, so let's figure out this curve, because I know you like smart graphs and curves and stuff. Is the curve what do you call this one, Jabril? It's like this. It starts slow, zooms up, and then tapers off.
It's usually S curve, sigmoid,
So we've got an S curve for AI technology. Do you think that that's the situation we're in right now, and we're at the top of that S curve? Now, obviously, this isn't with every AI tech, but in particular, art generation and asset generation.
I do feel that way, yeah, with art generation specifically.
I hope you're right. I really do, because I don't want it. As an artist, I want to do it myself, and I want that to be what makes my games stand out,
I have a question for you. Do you use Photoshop?
I do.
You do? I'm curious where you draw the line. Once upon a time, there were a lot of people vocal about the negative, the detriment of Photoshop hitting the market, and how it would like replace artists, and we need real artists drawing art instead of using these digital products.
Yeah.
I'm curious where you draw the line.
Boy, I wish. Okay, I'll tell you where my heart draws the line, and then I'll tell you where logically my heart draws the line.
Okay.
My heart draws the line at AI art in general. Hard stop. If you this is my flesh talking. This is my anger and frustration and fear talking.
Sure.
Which is, if you're using AI art outside of for concepting purposes, I don't like it. I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it in games. I don't want to see it even as AI. I don't want to see textures being drawn with AI. I don't want 3D models. I don't want none of it. That's my heart talking. Mm-hmm. And I know it's illogical, because welcome to technology, right?
Sure.
That's just like it's like somebody who's really, really angry, and they're like, the roads can't support cars. The roads support carriages, horse-drawn carriages. And can you imagine the infrastructure we need for roads, and cars are so dangerous, and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, well, be patient, and then the infrastructure will be there. And suddenly everyone will be working at tire shops instead of, putting on horseshoes, So the economy changes, the industry changes, and I know that, but my heart, it's like sad. It's more like I'm just sad, man. I'm like, I don't want to see games where the artist, his hand was not directly involved. It just makes me sad. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do know what you mean. I guess like my biggest issue when it comes to having this conversation is oftentimes I feel the conversation is like, we have to have all AI generated art or none at all.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's that dire, like, what is it called? The bone, what's it called? 2D bone, like the skeleton, there's software that you can do for animating, right?
Yeah.
We don't have all games are made using that. People still draw handcrafted, stuff to this day, and it's beautiful.
Sure.
Like you're a great example of that.
I think there's something to be said about not all. Oh man, this is potentially controversial.
Yes. Come on, give me the controversial episode.
And it's selfish, because I'm sitting here in a self-righteous, like the highest form of art is two-dimensional painting in Photoshop. And I actually, by the way, believe that in my flesh. My body feels that way.
Sure.
I feel it. I'm like hand-drawn or like music. It's like that's the highest form. Code, that's way down the line when it comes to like the highest form of art.
You and I, we got to fight there.
I know, right? And you listening or someone listening right now would go, so you're telling me, Thomas, that code is not an art form? And I would say, not in the same way that, and I believe this. I know I'm wrong, but I believe it. So I can actually operate that way. I can believe something and know it's wrong.
Sure.
I can feel in my heart that a custom handwritten story for a game, and it's written by Ken Levine, that is more of an art form than the back end code of a game.
Yeah.
And I want to hear what people have to say in the comments. Do you agree that this is an art form and this is a skill? They're different. What do you think?
I agree they're different.
Okay.
I agree they're different. I think what is beautiful about what you just expressed is that you're an individual and you're entitled to have your opinion, right? Like, irregardless of what I believe, like that's your opinion and I respect it. You know, it's not correct, but but I respect it.
Hey, what is your view of the correct opinion? I want to hear what you have to say.
I have a boring answer. I don't think they can be unpaired, to be honest. Like, you can't have one without the other. You know, like,
are they both art forms in the same way?
In the same way? No.
Because if they're not in the same way, then they are unpaired. You've got one in a different category, right?
Okay, I will accept your distinction there. I will accept. What's the question again?
The question is every art form okay? This is a difficult conversation because
no, I love this. Let's go deeper.
It's basically like, why do people get mad about AI art but they don't get mad about Claude? Why? And I think it's because this one is an art form and this one is not. It's art is different than code. They're different. One's more human. One is saying something poetic, something from the heart, and another one is building something. They're different.
The arguments I've seen is because a lot of these image generators just steal a bunch of art and then spit it out without crediting. That's a lot of the arguments that I've seen.
That's one side of it. The other side of it is humanity's lost. There's no more humanity in art. It's gone. There's no person behind the art, right? So one is yes, Stable Diffusion is effectively stealing. The other one is, okay, but let's even say it's not stolen and all of this material that it's being licensed by like Adobe or something. But you still have a problem, which is that the game itself is not human and it doesn't feel human and it doesn't have a heart.
But art's in the eye of the beholder, right? Like if I go take a walk out in the forest and I see an interesting configuration between the trees and the leaves and the branches and the sun and the clouds, and I take a picture, that becomes art, right? Because of my perspective. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I do not think that AI art is something that should be used in games, not in its current state. That's not my position. I think that I agree with you. They should be used in the concept phase as inspiration. But at the same time, I don't think I'm the person that would be anti-art in games. If it works well, it works well. And regardless, however you and I like it, the market ultimately decides, you know?
Correct.
So.
Man, it's, isn't it funny how this has become a massive ethical dilemma? Like AI in general is just this massive ethical dilemma. And I don't know how you solve it. I don't know how do you solve any of this? I mean, I don't even know if any nation or country or government has come up with any legislation around it. You know, I mean, I'm sitting here stuck on Steam. They're basically, I don't know if you've seen Steam's like licensing now. It's like you have to tell whether whether you've used AI, and it's like, well, who hasn't used Copilot? Who hasn't right? Who hasn't used Claude at least once?
Right. How's it defined? Yeah.
How's it defined? And I'm just really curious how this all ends up, you know? One of my AI predictions is that human-made art will get some kind of certification process. That there will be technologies that come about, maybe Jabril will make one, where it can identify whether or not it's human-made, and it will be a certificate or a badge given to products that are used maybe on the back end. So for example, uploading a game to Steam, it will go through that certification process, and it might take like an hour or two, and then you'll get the badge. And that will provide value to a product. So that's my prediction, that consumers will actually care if it's certified human made.
I think that's an interesting prediction. I can see it happening for sure. There's a lot of question on how the verification process is going to work, but I can see it at least being attempted. But at the same time, yeah, you know, I don't know, man. I don't know. As I think deeper, there has to be an issue, right? Like Steam is not just going to pay all these salaries to develop this without there being an issue to solve. And without like an outcry of like, hey, we need to know the distinction between AI versus human games because I guess we can't tell.
Yeah.
And again, back to my point, I don't think we'll ever get to that point.
Yeah.
But real quick aside, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
My friend made this this piece. Can you check out in Discord?
Yeah. Sure.
And tell me what you think about the art piece.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. I do. I've seen this though.
Dang it.
Yeah, and I will say, I am not lying to you. I'm going to tell you right now. I know this is AI. I can smell it.
Okay.
I'm telling you. You can tell. Am I wrong?
It is AI. I was trying to get you. Gotcha. Yeah.
I've seen this one, and it's beautiful. I actually saw it on Midjourney. I know it's Midjourney. Mm-hmm. I saw it on Midjourney's website. So maybe that's the reason I know, because I saw it at the top of Midjourney.
Fair enough. But the reason why I bring this up is because like this is kind of like the task that we have. Like you say that you can tell it's AI. I don't know anything about art, so I wouldn't be someone to go to ask these qualifications.
Yeah.
But how many people have that skill that you have and wouldn't just verify it as human, you know?
Well, that's the thing, man. It's like on one side, it's people. On one side, there's people who can smell it and they could just know. It's like, I don't know. I always smell my sandwich meat before I make a sandwich.
Same.
I'm paranoid about it.
Same.
And you can go, but it's a little funk. And it's the same is true with AI. It's like it's a little bit of funk there. Now I don't know if they'll be able to get rid of it. Whether Midjourney will, adapt the model to get rid of that funk, whatever that funk is. I don't even know what it is. But that's one side of the equation. On the other side of the equation, it's even if you can't tell, let's pretend people can't tell that there's AI, that it was made with AI. What if you told them as a marketing tool, that little green badge that says everything in this is fine-tuned and perfectly made by human beings. There's no LLMs, there's no stable diffusion, there's no Claude, there's no nothing. My prediction is that will be a marketing tool, and it will provide value and add value to a product.
I agree. I completely agree.
Yeah.
I completely agree. I just think that the issue is going to come up eventually where someone is able to defraud the process and all verification badges are no longer valid, Man. It's going to become a game to some people. Like they're like, yeah, I'm going to figure out how to pass the verification. Like,
probably a YouTube video for you. Yeah. And I know you'll figure it out. That's why I think it'll be a huge market, because it'll be a. Here's what I think. I think there's going to be an eternal golden goose egg or gold mine for whoever can figure out how to build a software company that is constantly identifying AI created content. Maybe it's for legal purposes too. But whoever can come up with that software that can identify what's AI created, they're going to have a sustainable business model for the rest of eternity, because they're going to, like you said, they're always going to have to be keeping up with the people who can hack the system, right? So I feel like it's just going to be this eternal race of trying to identify, or maybe you think we're eventually just not going to care.
I do believe that that's the path we're on. I view the AI generated stuff as Photoshop. Once upon a time, Photoshop hits your timeline, you're like, oh, that's clearly Photoshop. But nowadays, like, you don't even question it.
Right.
I do believe we're on that path. I'm not totally convinced that we'll be able to get one-to-one with like how like some top human artists can do. I'm not totally convinced on that. There'll always be artifacts. It's just part of the style, the aesthetic.
Yeah. Okay. Man, that's controversial. I like it. I mean, I think you might be right. And that was actually, well, go ahead with, do you have a prediction?
I do. Okay. Now listen, okay. I'm very hot and cold when it comes to AI. Okay. Like, I love it one day, I hate it the next. Okay. Today, I'm on a I hate it day. Okay. Listen, here's my prediction. Okay. We're finally going to get all of the investors out of the AI space, and AI generated, what they call it, Gen AI, is going to completely just dry up. And we're going to finally get back to the real AI stuff, which is AI classification. That's my prediction. Okay. That is my prediction. One of my biggest issues that I have with AI, the current AI culture, is that it's all focused on generative AI, like all of it, like generating images, generating video, text. The text stuff is cool. I like the text stuff. Generating, what you have it, right? Music, sounds, but that stuff doesn't really have a lot of use case. Like, if you really think about it, like you said, the images for concepting,
or the textures in a game,
But even then, they're funky, dude. They're funky.
I know,
They're weird.
I know. LLMs are useful for code. Right?
I think LLMs are really good technology. I don't ever bash LLMs. I love LLMs.
Okay, but when it comes to asset generation, it's like,
it's just funky, It's like you can't really use it in production unless like you really don't care. I won't get all that side tangent. Never mind.
You can. I can cut it out if you want.
Okay. You do editorial, you choose. But
yes,
as I'm saying that, I'm thinking back to the Poppy playtime, and there is some kid in his bedroom right now generating a bunch of funky textures, a bunch of funky sprites, a bunch of funky everything, and making one of the greatest games of all times right now.
That's right.
And then it's going to completely change the culture of like this AI style.
It's the next Minecraft, but like AI. It's just different. And we can't even predict it.
Yeah, and that's the part. That's the sad part about being old, is that like you and I, we got stuff to lose. Like, we can't be out here experimenting with this stuff, but there's some kid in his bedroom in his mom's basement that has nothing to lose, like everything to gain. Why not? Why wouldn't he use these free tools,
That's right. And that's what somebody said that during a live stream today. I was streaming and they said, Thomas, all you do is use old game design techniques for your games. Like Twisted Tower, it's got Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time temple game mechanics. Levers and switches and keys and maps, and it's like old school. And I said, that's what I love. And also, it's to your point, I'm not going to risk. I'm not going to make any risks right now. I'm going to make a solid game that I know is going to work. Yeah. But like you said, there's some, I guess Gen Alpha is the next generation. You got Gen Z and Gen Alpha. They're going to come up with some crazy idea using generative AI and the image and the asset generation stuff. And who knows, maybe it will be valuable,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's the only way I can really see the current Gen AI stuff like being adapted is like just there's some cultural shift towards it. Uh, but interesting enough about the person who left that comment, like I'd be so interested to like drag them into a room and just like pick their brain. Like, what do you mean by this? Like, how do you define
Yeah.
old? You know, like and
Well,
really figure that out.
I think what they and I engaged with them a little bit on the stream, and I think essentially there was something like they wish that I would be more innovative, but I'm not innovative.
What
Jabrils
does that
is
even
innovative.
mean? What
I
does that
think.
even mean?
Well, it's kind of like Stable Diffusion. It's like Thomas is really good at Stable Diffusion. He takes all this stuff that he's experienced from his childhood, and all the games that he's inspired by, and he puts them into a game, which I do. You know, I don't come up with anything like Thomas Mahler. He's the he's the creator of Celeste. I'm not Celeste. Ori and the Blind Forest, and he was talking to me on the podcast. And he's like all about advancing genres forward. I mean, he wants to take like RPGs forward. He wants to take platforming games forward to the next. What's the next evolution, right?
Sure.
For me, I'm like, I don't want to evolve anything.
Sure.
I want to put my style and my aesthetic when it comes to art forms, and put it into a genre that works.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I understand that. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like the truth of the matter is, damn. I sorry. Sometimes I'm about to say something that involves a stat, and then I realize I read an article that like throws that stat off. I'm sorry. My brain works in weird ways. What I was going to say is that there are 8 trillion people. Trillion? 8 billion?
Let's take a look. How about I Google it?
Wait, is it billion
people or trillion?
I think it has to be billion.
It's got to be billion, right?
It's got to be billion.
There's no way there's a trillion people. Yes, okay, 8 billion. I
8
got
billion.
it for you. Thanks
8
to
billion
AI.
people on the planet. And like, if you put in the work, you find your people no matter what you're making, you know?
Yep.
That's what I
That's right. That's right. So the prediction was, what was it?
That all of the investors are going to leave the AI space, and all of the money for Gen AI is going to dry up, and we're going to get back to the real AI application, which is AI classification.
Tell me more.
Sure. So, where do I begin? So, I think one of the greatest components of artificial intelligence is being able to classify things, right? Some of the greatest innovations in the last few years have been using classification AI. This is a controversial somehow, but like the vaccines was founded in a very fast period because they used AI to classify different proteins and stuff like that. There was, what was it? Snake venom recently was, you could only, if you got bit by a snake, the only way that you can cure it is by using anti-venom, which was extracted from snake venom. However, using artificial intelligence, they were able to find like an enzyme or something like that where they can artificially produce anti-venom now. So it's like completely revolutionized.
Is this the same thing as I heard about an app that could potentially teach you how to talk to your dog? And the way that it's done is by, it has a huge bank of sounds that it can interpret for each species or each breed of dog. And then it can go through and it can, you record the dog. This is all theoretical. I don't think it exists. But because of the ability to quickly pull and classify the different sounds from a dog, it can translate what the dog is trying to say based on this huge library of labels for the dog's different sounds. Is that kind of what you're talking about?
I mean, ideally, that'd be a use case for it.
Okay.
I'm a little skeptical if that will work, but ideally.
I don't know if a dog is actually saying anything.
You're right. And in the sense that we can understand. But,
yes.
But yeah, I think there's a lot of like missed opportunity of innovation with using AI to classify things that are just like beyond our capabilities, our human capabilities to classify. Like we're talking about taking something with like 1,000 dimensions of data and then figuring out like what if in this node where the venom amount is 30%, but in this node the saliva amount is 50%, and 1,000 different dimensions. What does this mean, right?
Yes.
AI
Yes.
can classify that and help scientists like do really insane stuff. And
Side note here, dude. What I struggle with is what do we mean by AI?
yeah,
We act as if it's like an alien that came down to Earth in 2017 or something,
I hate
and
it. I
and
hate it
and
so
it's
much.
just it is AI. It is AI, and I'm like, well, how long is LLM the same as Stable Diffusion? Do they use the same technology? Is it
They
all AI?
so LLM is a branch term. It means large language models, in
Right.
which it's just like a bunch of text that's trained to predict like the next token is what they call it. It's not next word. It's not next character. Sometimes they're
It's
bunched.
tokens.
But
Okay.
Stable Diffusion is a model itself. I think that might be the name of the company as well.
Yeah.
And I
So
believe
that's a
they
totally different model. So they're called AI just in general, like by news outlets, but they're completely different things.
it's a mess. Honestly, it's a mess. I was at a conference that Amazon was putting on about robots and stuff, and I was talking to some PhD AI students, and they were trying to convince me that the AI in Pong and Pac-Man is not AI.
Of course it is.
I was like, wait, you guys are AI PhD students, and you're saying this is not AI? It's a mess. It's a mess.
So this is what I'm trying to figure out. This is a sincere question. Maybe you know the answer. Why did this all of a sudden explode?
Yeah, ChatGPT was one of the pioneers for this explosion. Well, it depends how far you want to go back, but specifically, ChatGPT was in development for a couple of years. It was actually open source. It was already on the market. There was GPT-2, I think, was the first one, and then GPT-3 was released, and then they figured out a process where you can. And the way GPT-2 and 3 worked, it was nothing like ChatGPT. It literally would predict the next word, and it would sometimes give you just random garble.
Right.
I don't know if you ever watched some of the videos like back in 2000. I'm sorry, in 2019 of videos of like, I used AI to generate a script. Here's how the Matrix would work if Superman was in it. Like that was using the GPT-2 and 3.
Yeah.
But then they figured this process where you can essentially like get humans in the loop, and then you can get the GPT-2 to generate like a corpus. I'm sorry, generate text, and then you tell it if like the text was good or not, responding to your question,
Right.
and that just like magically worked, and it boomed. It boomed the industry from that point.
What I'm trying to figure out is why is it that, okay, we've got three categories of AI that we've just discussed, right? We've got LLMs, we've got Stable Diffusion, or whatever is being used. It's Stable Diffusion for art, right?
Sure.
Then we've got what you just mentioned, which is categorization. What was it called?
Classification.
Is that linked to these two, or is it its own new technology?
I'd say it's its own thing. The only real difference is all of them have inputs, like all of them. All of them have the black box, the middle network. It's the output that's different, right? So like when it comes to image generation, the output is often like the size of an image, whatever image you're outputting, right? But if it's the classification, you could have 1,000 inputs, the black box, and literally just one output that's like yes or no. You know, do I have cancer, for example? Here's 1,000 inputs, black box, yes or no, right?
Okay.
Unfortunately, we have not invested enough money, I believe, into using classification AIs, which can really like improve so many lives. Like here's an example, right? You have a car, right? I'm assuming. Please don't answer that.
I do.
You have a car.
Yeah.
And your car is starting to have problems, right? You don't really know what's going on, right? Like you don't want to take the mechanic because maybe you might get swindled or something like that.
Yeah.
And that process for a lot of people is very grueling. If we were to use AI, classification AI correctly, someone can develop an algorithm where all the different components of your car is fed into an algorithm and then outputs what's wrong with your car. And it could classify it at a high probability of what's going on.
So you don't have to have a mechanic go in and say, okay, it looks like this is doing that and this is doing that, and then they plug it in and they write it down into the algorithm. You're saying instead it can just read the data through
automatically
through a computer,
and they have the model built into their car,
and it just does probabilistic math.
Correct.
To figure it out quickly.
Correct.
What makes this different? What makes this an AI as opposed to just a really fancy, library of data that we could have done in the early 2000s?
Sure. So once again, it's a mess, right? But AI specifically is when you're utilizing neural networks, right?
Yeah.
So the black box in the middle, it's a neural network, which I'm not going to go into too much detail, but essentially it's like a very complex, like linear equation that you essentially give data input, you feed it into there, and then there's output. Oftentimes you need labels. So this will be up to Honda or Ford or whoever to train these models with the correct data. As the input goes out, the black box itself is like slowly corrected to be correct on the input. So when you buy a Ford or a Honda and you're out and your oil keeps leaking or something like that, and your check engine light comes on, you can just say like, hey, based on this model that they trained with over 1 million different customers' data, what's going on with my car? And they can take all the inputs that they have and just say like, oh, well, it looks like that you might need to replace your valve cover or something like that, right? And then you can go straight to the mechanic and say like, hey, look, Ford gave me this model. I don't want to hear your bullshit. This is what's happening. Do it, you know?
Gotcha. Wow.
And it would improve so many people. And that's just one example. That's just one example.
I'm thinking about the medical field. Like,
yes,
no more getting screwed. You know, no more getting crazy bills or a crazy diagnosis where it's like, it's much easier to you can just cross-check and go like, because like I've been, you know, I'm fine with doctors, but it's like I've been to 3 different doctors and they say completely different things. And so you're just like, what are you supposed to do with this? Okay, that's amazing. I love that.
But do you see my frustration? Like there's so much money that goes into this Gen AI stuff. They're like, does it really have any use case? Like, why are we investing? Like, I love ChatGPT. I love OpenAI, but they have a $300 billion evaluation, and all they've really given us is generative like image and like.
And I will say, you know, I will say like a lot of the cool stuff. I was like really, really impressed with their chat bot or something. It was like you can. It's an app where you can just talk to it and it talks back to you. It's really cool.
Yeah. But
I don't use it.
Sure.
Because there's some sort of issue with its functionality and it not being productive. So I agree with you that there's something missing there and that the investment might need to be redirected. People are scared. People are scared that it's going to cause industries to collapse and that we're going to lose jobs because of it. My theory is that it will, instead of it being like a pie chart where it's like 50% of jobs in America are AI and 50% are human, my theory is that it doesn't fill up like a typical pie chart. Instead, the pie expands. So instead, we get just more jobs and more economical opportunity. So I don't think people need to be as scared. And believe me, I've been scared. I don't think people need to be scared that AI is going to take jobs. I think it's going to make everything way more productive. It's going to increase the value of currency. It's going to make energy cheaper. And therefore, we don't have to work as much because of AI. Therefore, I just feel like if everything is more productive because of AI, that means that we probably won't have to worry about working so much. You know, everybody spends their time, and myself included, plugging in data and scrubbing through emails. And it's like, well, I think AI is probably going to take those jobs, and a lot more fun jobs will be created, more creative jobs.
Yeah.
So that's my prediction. What do you think about that?
I think it's interesting. I think once again, I'm not really convinced. So we need to make the distinction of AI versus automation, right? If we're talking purely AI, I'm not convinced. If we're talking automation, I think I'm a little more convinced that it could replace jobs. I have played with a lot of like the LLMs and some of the latest, greatest state-of-the-art models, and they are not as competent as you might think. I think on the surface level, they're really good at doing surface level stuff. When you task them to do like more deeper tasks, like they're not competent at all.
Right.
And the question is like, okay, cool. We're on this acceleration path. AI is getting better, right? But at what point will it get to where it will be competent enough to do like more serious, like human level tasks, right? And then, you project it out 10 years, whatever the case, right? And then you go, okay, cool. What is that going to cost, right? Because OpenAI is already fundraising, what is it, 30 billion, I think, the other day with a $300 billion evaluation. And it's like, now we're starting to get into the territory of like fundraising. You're going to need nations to come in, right? And it's like, that's when it starts to like break for me. It's like the funding to get to that point in the acceleration curve, it starts to become like financially infeasible. And then you're talking about nations need to collaborate to do one AI. That doesn't seem likely to. Like,
It sounds like you. It sounds like you feel. I know you mentioned you're kind of up and down about AI, but it sounds like that you're feeling negative today. It sounds like you're almost. You feel like it was all a charade, kind of like the emperor has no clothes.
yeah,
And we're
kind
all
of.
realizing now that it's not as exciting as we thought.
Yeah, kind of. I think, yeah. I think I do believe. I think the only caveat I'll say is that it's hard to see things that you don't know, right? Like it's very possible in 5 years from now, quantum computing drops and it completely changes everything.
Yep. They've been saying it's going to be dropped for the last decade. It just doesn't seem to ever happen. Maybe I'm wrong.
I
I don't
have a
know.
swindle story with quantum computers. I
Yes,
read,
please.
I'll make this short. I don't want to talk forever, but I did a sponsorship. I'm not going to name who, but they had said that they had a quantum computer they wanted me to make a video about. I was like, oh yeah, this sounds exciting, cool. And I had no idea what it was, so I asked them like, what's some of the stuff I can do with it? Like, oh, you can make algorithms with it. You can use our actual quantum computer, process something, and then bring it back to your computer and use it. And it'll give you all these speed ups, and it's great. And I was like, okay, cool. Here's what I'm thinking about doing. Can I do this? Like, yeah, absolutely, yeah. And so they give me this program where I can like train to learn how to use their quantum computer when the time comes. And so I'm sitting there trying to figure this thing out. It makes no sense to me. And then it hits me. Like I'm like 3 days in, 16 hours a day trying to learn this thing so I can make a cool video. And then it hits me. And I realize the capacity in which they gave me was literally like equivalent to like 8 bytes or something like that. And it's like, there's no possible way that I can do this project I pitched to you to make this thing. Right. And then the time came for me to use it. And it turns out they put me on a simulator for that. I was like, dude, I feel like I'm being swindled. What is going on?
Did they ever come out with the product?
No, not to this day. It's still not out. I can tell you who it is after. I don't want to
Sure.
blast.
I will say this. Haven't heard someone as, I wouldn't call you cynical, but you sound cynical. I don't know what the right word is, but I haven't heard someone as cynical as you about AI. And it's making me wonder if we're being tricked. I don't know.
I will say this. I started working with AI in 2017. This is before all the boom and stuff, right?
Yeah.
The communities back then were very fun. They were very hopeful. We didn't have anything like LLMs and that stuff, right? There was some progress. It was all still very cringe, but it was fun, right? And there was this big debate back in the days about like open source versus privatization of AI. And in the name, Open AI came with this promise like, hey, we're getting all this money, we're getting funded by Elon Musk and blah, 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 and we're going to make these models, right? And they did. And they released GPT, I think 1, 2, and 3, I think they did. Open source models, you can download, you can play with them. But then came ChatGPT, and then they privatized at some point. They're now called Open AI. They shouldn't be called Open AI. But the point that I'm getting at here is that at some point, and they were also doing other stuff as well. They weren't just doing text generation, image generation. They're doing other cool experiments as well. The point I'm getting at here is that my frustration comes from the generative AI stuff is such a small slice of what makes this technology cool. Okay. That's what I was telling you about the classification stuff. That stuff literally can change people's lives. Literally change lives. But we choose to invest all this money in the tech, the generative tech stuff. And I think that is largely because it's what people know, and it's just easy to fundraise on it.
Would you, Jabril? Would you compare this to something like cryptocurrency? Crypto, I don't have any issues with crypto other than the fact that it's not currency. Right?
I don't think I would, only because like there are use cases for, and again, back to our issue of like AI is a mess, right? Like it is so many different like subsections of AI, and so I would definitely wouldn't say the entire umbrella is like cryptocurrency. I think there are like certain segments that are like that. For example, I do not understand video generation. I don't understand why people want it. I don't understand what people plan to do when it drops. I don't understand.
It's great for content creation. You can get some terrifying videos out of that. But that's about all I've seen it for.
But even that, like, what percentage use case is that? Like, we're investing hundreds of millions of dollars for 3 people in the bedroom to make some memes. Like,
Here's my thought. I think that I think eventually society will stop caring whether it's AI or not. Use cases are dependent on whether people actually care. So, for example, I think people still care if AI is going to be used in a Marvel movie. I think people will care. And people will view a Marvel movie as being not as good, and a Marvel movie sucks, and it trends on Twitter as sucking because there was one character who was AI generated. Go ahead. What's up?
Did I cut in here?
Yes.
Fun fact. They already use AI in Marvel movies.
I know. And it's causing people to get pissed.
No. Wait. I'm not talking about the Secret Invasion intro thing. I'm talking about to recreate Thanos' face. They heavily used AI to make that happen.
Okay. And is it the same kind? This is the problem. Is it the same kind of AI as Mid-Journey, right?
Yep.
Or video generation?
Yeah.
And that's right. And so that's why I think once people get so confused and it's been around for so long, they're just going to stop caring. And then suddenly, Marvel is going to use it all the time and no one's going to care. So that's where I see the use case is when people stop caring, then the floodgates open. And then they can use video generation to their heart's content without any worry about what the backlash is going to be. That's my theory.
I have to call you out on this, though.
Okay.
It sounds a bit contradictory.
I know it does.
Does it come before or after the verification badge process?
Right. And so here's what I think. You ready?
Yeah.
I think just like there's people like me who hate Marvel movies. I hate Marvel movies. I don't care.
What about the Avengers? Do you don't like the Avengers?
No.
Surely.
I don't care about any of that stuff. I don't like. I know.
Look, post Avengers, I'm with you.
Okay. I don't care. I don't like pop music. I don't like sugary anything. Okay. Sure. I don't even like Coca-Cola. I like things to have depth and have a heart. And so, and I'm one of those pretentious, probably, I only watch A24 films, right? I'm kind of one of those kind of guys.
Good films.
Right? And so what I'm saying is that there's going to be, just like in film, you've got plenty of money on the Vanguard side, and then you've got plenty of money on the, action flick or pop music, or it's clearly supposed to be a blockbuster and it's made for money. You've got an audience for both. It relates to what I said in my second point, which is it's not that the pie gets filled up with AI or not. It's that the pie expands. You've got a huge market for human-generated content, and people only love that stuff. And then you've got a huge market for AI stuff, and nobody cares over here. So that's kind of where I think all of my predictions, they fit together. I don't think it's a contradiction. I think that you're gonna have tons of entertainment content available at your fingertips that's AI generated, and no one's gonna care because that audience never cared to begin with. And then you've got all this other stuff because they're hanging out watching Marvel movies, and then you've got all this other kind of content that is for people who actually do care, and that's where the verification comes in.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
So we'll see, man. I have no idea.
Can I ask you
where my head is? Yeah.
I'm so curious. Name what's a film that you like?
Oh man, I really enjoyed The Lighthouse.
The Lighthouse
from Robert Eggers, and I watched Nosferatu. He made Nosferatu, and I didn't like that at all. So it's not like I'm just sitting here. If it's Vanguard or if it's got this artsy vibe, I'll like it. I do like movies that you can almost sense that it's got the fingerprint of the auteur or the creator. I really value those a lot. I love a ton of M. Night Shyamalan films because even though they might suck, they have that thumbprint. You can tell that it's made by a human. It's got a human feeling. It's very well, it feels like it came from a singular mind. I really
Yeah.
appreciate that. What about you? What go ahead.
Real quick, this is hypothetical, okay? I want you
Mm-hmm.
to work with me here, okay? I want you to imagine, okay, in the lighthouse, one of your favorite scenes, heavily used AI, and you just learned about it right now. How does that change your relationship with that film?
It changes it a lot. It does. And the reason why is because I think I did a video about this. I don't think human beings are utilitarian. I think we are social. Everything we do is driven by this social desire. And the social desire is to be heard and seen and felt and understood, to be told that we're not crazy, to be told that we mean something and what we think matters.
Some of us are crazy.
That's right. So when it comes to consuming content, I don't consume a Netflix show or, like, for example, Severance. I don't watch Severance because I'm entertained. I think I'm entertained because I feel like I'm heard. Like when I see a character and I relate to that character and I want that character to succeed, it's because I kind of identify with that character and I see myself in that character. The reason I say all this is because the moment that a viewer finds out that character wasn't created by a human, it's something just is off-putting for me. It immediately turns me off, and I'm like, well, I can't be understood by nothing. I can only be understood by something that is a peer. Does that kind of make sense? I'm not sure if that's too abstract.
Yeah, I mean,
annoying.
I get the general gist of what you're getting at. I get the general gist. That's fascinating. So, like, obviously, like, we have different experiences when it comes to the mess that is AI,
Yes,
right?
Yes.
And oftentimes when I hear AI, I hear nothing but like the optimization process of data, right? That's where my mind goes when
that's
I hear
where your
AI.
head goes. Gotcha.
Right. And I understand where you're coming from, and I like have no like counter argument to it whatsoever. It's a yes and.
Yeah.
I wonder how much of art is the optimization of data in itself, right?
Yep.
Because if you would define like the evolution of art as the optimization of data, that would make AI, that is a mess. I wouldn't necessarily say art, but a tool to help art.
I see what you're saying. Oh, man.
We have this deep philosophical conversation on a Monday. Who are we?
Welcome to the Thomas Brush podcast. You know, I think that it's a good point. I think it's a really, really good point. There is nothing more exciting than having a real human being. This is why I believe in a higher power, because there's something about human beings that are divine. And when I consume art, it's like a hug. It's like a cozy little, hey, something with a divine consciousness is interacting with you, and you merge.
Mm-hmm.
When I watch a great film, I merge. When I hear great music, I merge with some other consciousness.
Yeah.
And this is why I think that the AI art, you know, that stench I was talking about, the smell, that's what I think it's. I think it's something like, it's almost like spiritual. You just see it and you're like, nope, I'm not getting that divine warmth. I'm not getting it anymore.
Yeah.
With this AI generated piece of art. I don't know. I just feel like there's something about it that doesn't feel human. And at the end of the day, everything we strive for as human beings is not comfort. It's not power. I think human beings strive to feel valued and connected with their peers. I'm not striving to gain power over every dog on the planet. I'm looking at my dog right now. Like my deepest, if I have an evil desire, my evil desire is to have dominion over humans, not dogs. Why humans? Why not dogs?
Wait, hold on. What are we saying? Wait.
I'm saying
I
that
heard dominate dogs, dominate humans. Wait.
I'm saying that human beings crave to have either a relationship or dominion over other humans. We care about our peers. We care about humans.
Yeah.
We don't crave dominion over like other things. It's typically, I want dominion, like evil. Evil's about dominion over human beings. And so that's why I think that art has to be human for it to be art. Because that's what we care about. We care about it being from other human beings. That's what makes it valuable.
I could continue to press you on this all day. This is fascinating.
I don't know if there's a solution. We're gonna have to just see and watch it play out. You know what I mean?
We don't have an option. Like that's
I agree.
all we can do.
Man, dude, that was a really good conversation.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, dude, totally. Thanks for coming on, Jabril. That was fascinating. Really, really fun. Do you
Likewise.
want a link in the description for anything?
Yeah. Please go download Ultra Balders. It's one of the best turn-based fighting games that you've never played yet. Go check it out.
Awesome. We'll do that, man. Well, thanks for hanging out. Really fun.
Thanks for having me, man. I really enjoyed it.
Also, hey, don't forget to check out Bezi to simplify and accelerate your development process. You can sign up for the waitlist to be one of the first to get access by simply clicking the link in the description.